Alright, timestamp is July 12th, 2026, about 5 a.m. I'm actually going to bed here pretty soon. Um, I've got, there's my hairbrush. Sorry, Sparky. Yeah, so I stayed up till probably about 4 a.m. last night. Power did come on again, way before what they said it was going to, which is good. Like I think I said in the video. The power company here is actually really good at um, scaring the hell out of you in the respect of they'll say, yeah, you'll have your power back up on Tuesday, on a Sunday afternoon. It's like, okay, cool, nice, thank you. And then, 20 minutes later it's up. So they never leave you hanging. They just scare you with a really, really far out there estimate. But yeah, power came back on um, while the power was out. It did take a couple hours, but it didn't take the, 7 that they were prophesizing. Um, so my phone, I've got one of the Segway makes sense. Um, with some phones you can put in like an SD card, a little micro card with its own internal memory, blah blah blah. I've got, and I did this for Pix's phone too. A Mac Daddy, one of those like $40. It's an entire library size SD card, which is cool. If you didn't know that you can do this, um, that can give you quite a walking database, and it won't affect. Typically, it won't drag down your phone proper because it's like its own little external hard drive almost. Almost it is. Um, I've got like 40 movies on it, and a butt ton of albums and stuff, which is convenient. It does take power, but in those kind of moments when there's a media blackout and streaming something through your phone is either going to be difficult or glitchy, I can just play a favorite movie or something. So I went through what was on my card, and again, I've got like I think 40 or 50 movies on there. Stuff like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Tron, Young Frankenstein. I mean, I've got some fun stuff to watch and some musicals because I am that dork. But my conversation with, and I don't remember what I called him. His real name does begin with a J, so I'll just call him Jason. At the bank, the young man that I had the theater discussion with, who apparently played Gabe in Next to Normal, which it's a show that I want to do. Actually, it's on my list. Not Gabe, because that character is like 17, and I've seen some people say that Gen Xers are arrogant and they think that they're much younger looking than they are. Gen Xers think they're like 20 years old. I don't think I'm 20 years old. I am 55, but once I get the dental work done that I need, I think I could pass for 40. And I usually get people, when they ask how old I am, they usually guess like 40, 42, which, yeah, sure. Huh? You got it right. Not going to argue with you on that. But I would love to play Dan. It's a heavy show. It's a heavy show. Basically done traditionally, and I say traditionally, it's not that old a show, but done traditionally. I just took a shower, by the way. I'm going to go get some Q-tips and do things to my ears you're not supposed to. There are 6 performers total. Actors, not musicians. I just need to step over you, sir. There you go. Thank you. So, the 6 characters are the family of 4, the Goodman family. Dan and Diana, mom and dad, and the kids, Gabe and Natalie. Um, Natalie picks up a boyfriend. His name's Henry. And then there's the psychiatrist, who actually is two psychiatrists. He basically plays both. His initial character is Dr. Fine, and then when Dr. Fine doesn't come up with answers that satisfy the family, they go to a new psychiatrist that, according to Dan, is like a rock star, which there's some funny shit that happens there. If you know, you know. And his name is Dr. Madden. It is funny that the initial shrink's name is Dr. Fine. I think that's funny. He's fine. Everything's fine. Because this whole show is very much like the dog, everything is fine, this is fine meme. Very much. Because the family is experiencing some mental illness. And the show is all over the place as far as like angry, happy, funny, sad, heart-wrenching. It's everything an actor could want in a show. It's got it all. But the music is hella complicated. And being that the Henry has a fair amount of stuff, the doc has a fair amount of stuff, the predominance of the script is the four family members. And none of them can suck if you want the production to be good. Honestly, all six need to be strong, but the four family members especially, oh dear God. If they're not top notch, because they're 90% of the show. If they suck, people figure it out. I have yet to see a production that sucked. I've watched a few of them online, and one of the things that I have on my phone, getting to this, see, all comes back around, is I managed to snag a copy, and it's a theater grab, but it's a good theater grab. A slime tutorial, if you will. The second preview from Broadway with Alice Ripley as Diana, and I think it's Aaron Zveit as Gabe, and it's not Brian D'Arcy, or is it? I'm not sure who Dan is. Anyway, I digress. Cast is incredible. So, but based on my conversations with Jason, who has got to have some talent, he said he actually won like some award type stuff for his performance. Gabe, all four parts are heavy. They just are. If you know the show, you know what I'm talking about. It's a heavy show. The happy subject of mental illness and how it can destroy people and or family. It's light comedy. There is some funny stuff in it, but it's a gut punch too. But yeah, based on that was kind of fresh in my head, so I can still hear I got something going on there. I don't think it's the ugly. I think I've got like something I need antibiotics for, which I got to look to that. It'll help when we can actually, drive, because car is down. We haven't gotten any information yet. It's the weekend, and we're not going to be getting information probably till Monday, because it's the weekend, and the shop that we go to is closed on the weekends. I'm still special. So I watched Next to Normal on my phone in the dark, and had some good quality cry here and there. Yep. Family in crisis with mental illness. If only I could relate with that. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. This is some of the Aldi brand vanilla. Tiny brewed this a little while ago. Well, actually several hours ago now. It's so good. With health check wise, I feel pretty good. Pretty good. I picked up a cheap pack of cigarettes and smoking like 5 or 6 of those a day, which is probably better than 2 or 3 of the cigars. And I'm noticing that I'm actually breathing a little easier. I'm not having as much strained breathing like in the morning and whatnot, so I think the heaviness of the cigars was actually, because smoking cigarettes is very much okay. No, it's not, and I know that. But I think, because I am working on quitting and cutting back and all that, I think this was a good move in the right direction. I'm actually, I think, cutting back in my own way too. So, maybe I'll be kicked by this weekend, by like next weekend. That'd be swell. Because I need to quit, and I know that. But yeah, no. So we're working out here. Cleared a bunch of space. Should be able to finish up clearing this table tomorrow, because I'm going to get some sleep. But clear this table. We're going to break it down. Basically cut it into 2 halves, so to speak. Because it's got a shelf there, and then the bottom of the shelf with the wheels on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop off the top shelf and use it as a platform on the lanai, and chop off the legs and have the rolling platform on the lanai too. Which the purpose of that is we can stack on top of it and it won't be on the floor of the lanai. So if we do experience wetness, if we have cardboard boxes or something like that, it won't destroy the cardboard boxes, everything within them, and then fundamentally compromise the stack, because the bottom box is now saturated with water. Because we have run into that here. Not anything that we did. Stuff that was done hypothetically by my dad, because I don't think my mom was carrying boxes around. Yeah, my dad, through bad decision making and stacking and organizing, ruined a lot of things, because he was putting cardboard boxes on floors and grounds where it was getting constantly wet. So like in the garage there were 4 large boxes of books that were on the floor, that anytime, and he was doing this before we got here, he had already started the process of wrecking stuff, sometimes carelessly, sometimes recklessly, depending on the moment and what he was doing. But 4 boxes of books that were on the ground that just, over probably the span of 6 months to 2 years, because it wasn't happening in 2023 when I was here. Everything was running fairly smoothly and correctly-ish. But, I mean, the washer wasn't, like, leaking all over the floor and whatnot. That's new. That started happening, I know it was happening 6 months before Mom died. I'm not sure about beyond that, because up until that point, we weren't allowed in the house because we had stolen from them. But Mom insisted that we should be allowed inside the house because she was in the hospital and couldn't keep an eye on Dad. So now you acknowledge there's a problem, because you realize that, oh shit, I'm not there to keep an eye on him and keep him from shooting a neighbor. Okay. Yeah, I'm still a little angry and bitter about, all of it. That's going to take me, for the rest of my life, to get over, pretty much. So those boxes of books were, what's the word I'm looking for, destroyed, because constant water, black mold, just water damage in general, white mold, paisley mold, polka dotted mold, a little bit of plaid mold, and we were going for all the different patterns. And so, in some of the cases, the boxes actually, the moisture traveled up the cardboard and started infecting the box above it too. So, you know, some plush, some other paper goods, you know, just bad planning. Okay. Some stuff probably had some value, had past tense. Some was just your typical garage junk, but you know, just the same. There are ways that you could have avoided that. But there's a lot of things around here that could have been avoided. But yeah, so I watched Next to Normal alone in the dark, and had some good quality crying here and there, because it's a gut-wrenching roller coaster, but it's such a well-written show. And I doing a little research on the show itself. I'm not like in production mode because I'm not ready to do any theater right now. There's no way that I could. I'm a little busy, but yeah, that's a show that I would love to do. And when it's a show that I'm interested in doing, I do tend to kind of go in like pre-production mode to a degree, and I look into it and I research it and start learning the script a little bit here and there. And if you're at all bardy, you understand how this works. But I found out that there's a more recent production going on. I don't know if it's still going on or not, but in West End, I guess in like 2022, 2023, probably like right after COVID, I guess. And they actually did a teleplay, a film version of the show, which is nice. I like it when they actually do that, as long as they don't play to the camera, as long as they do it like they normally would a show. They just happen to film it like professionally and with purpose. Those are great. Like the final production of Rent on Broadway, they filmed that. And I'll watch that before I'll watch the film. And I'm very biased, having done the show. They changed just enough for the film that I find it annoying, even though they had a lot of the original cast members in it. I don't like to watch it. I would much rather, and I have both, of course I do. I would much rather watch the final production with, you know, I think one of the ensemble is like from original cast. I think there's a lady that was like original cast, whatnot, but everybody else is, you know, completely new. It's not Jesse L. Martin. It's not, you know, any of the original cast members. Not Pascal, you know. And it's an incredibly good performance. It's top shelf. You don't get much better than that. It's perfect. You know what I mean? But there's a teleplay of the West End production, and I started watching that once the power came back on. I'm about halfway through it. Been doing stuff, and Tiny and I were getting stuff done today. Alex helped briefly, and then had a meltdown, which kind of sidelined us a little bit. We're all under a lot of stress, so I mean, I get it, and at the same time, kid, you gotta help a little bit. Not asking a lot. We don't ask a lot. You know, a day or two a week, please help. We've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. But with the autism, sometimes he gets overwhelmed, he gets headaches a lot, like I do. Sorry about the genetics on that one. Especially in the summer. I'm prone to pressure headaches. I get like really bad sinus headaches when there's atmospheric change. So summer in Florida, which traditionally is blistering hot and then wet, just is all over the place for my sinus headaches. It can suck. So that'll be one thing that'll be interesting about not living in Florida anymore, is I might not get those nearly as often. Curious how, because if we move somewhere where there's mountains and whatnot, I miss the mountains. It's a big song in Next to Normal. In case you didn't know that, and unless you know the show, you probably wouldn't know that. It's one of Diana's songs, and it's sweet, and it's also a gut punch. It's all about how my life has kind of passed me by, and I miss the person that I was before all this started. Good times. Good times. Like I said, it's an emotional roller coaster. And I would love to do it. How messed up am I, right? Don't answer that. No, really, don't answer that. But I am curious if we're somewhere where there are mountains, if the altitude is going to trigger anything like that. Because I have gotten some headaches when flying before. So, and I realize that, a 747 goes a little higher than your typical, Appalachian mountain, by a couple thousand feet or what have you. But it's just a kind of a curiosity of, ooh, is that going to mess me up? I don't know. But I know unless we moved to Texas, which we are not moving to Texas, be trading a DeSantis for an Abbott, that's insane. That's lateral. No. Everybody's got guns. But yeah, I'm curious if the change in altitude, because I know we're talking about possibly Arkansas, Colorado. These are all places where the sea level elevation, I don't know. From a timestampy standpoint, in tooling around the internet, it looks like Lindsey Graham just died due to a sudden illness. And it looks like there are rumors floating around that Mitch McConnell is in fact dead, and that it's being hidden, which, that's interesting, because that's two really high-profile Republican senators careful what you eat and drink while you're in D.C., apparently, right? Not laughing at their death, it's just kind of that's two major players. If this were like medieval times, I'd say that someone was making a play for the throne. You know what I mean? You just had a baron and a duke suddenly drop dead. Did the king take them out because he was nervous, or is someone else about to take the king out? Making a play for it. Is there a power-hungry earl out there? You know what I mean? It's like palace intrigue here. And they're both also old men, so it could just be, a normal day. But just the timing of it's kind of like, what? Unless it's an internet hoax, but it looked like there were major news outlets that were actually reporting it, so... Wow. Didn't see that coming. Things are going to get real interesting this month. It would seem. And for the record, I had nothing to do with it. I've been here in Pasco County, Florida. Nothing to do with anything. Just trying to go through boxes of glassware and moldy books. Because that's apparently what I do now. 10 years ago, I'm telling you, never would have, nope. No, that's not going to be what is going on. No. No, I'll like be running my own store or something at that point, or I'll be doing enough freelance writing to where I can do theater at night, and maybe not raking in money, but being really happy with what I'm doing. But right now I've got to get through the stuff that I don't want to do so that I can actually get around to having the life that I want. And that's just the truth of it. It's all very Malcolm Reynolds, I did the job and then I get paid, I keep hearing that speech with the governor of that little world that intended on shooting him again when he finally takes the money. I keep having that, no, I've endured, that one. A few unkind words. Keeps playing in my head. That's the way I feel regarding my parents. Full disclosure. I do the job, and then I get paid. Only in this case, it's not, go run your little world. It's, I'll make sure your final wishes are accommodated. Because that's also part of my job. But yeah, Dad, I haven't had a chance to visit him. I was going to visit him this past week. Car took a shit. So hopefully I can... Pix and I were on the phone today. We were looking at Monday or Tuesday, I think. But some of it's going to depend on what the mechanic tells us as far as, like, can we drive the car, or is it pretty much a time bomb? What precautions should we put in place? Or what? Because that's not my field. I don't know. Obviously the car has problems because we're putting, a 2-liter plus of water in it after driving for 30 minutes. So clearly, yeah, there's something wrong. Can we exist doing that for another month or two? I mean, it's inconvenient because you can't really put water in it while it's hot. So if you're going somewhere, you're going to have to let it cool, before putting more water in. You got to make sure you've got 2.5 Camels in the car. But can we do that for a little while without fear of it exploding or it, leaving us stranded somewhere? I don't know. It's a mystery. That's why we need the mechanic to kind of call us back and really... We need more information. Now, I did leave a message Thursday afternoon, but I know they were pretty busy, so... Yeah, not yet, I haven't, thanks. No, I haven't. Yeah, so I mean, that's on our mind, obviously. We're on the brink of a lot of, like, we're about to pay off my house. about to pay off my house. Like one payment away from paying off my house, which that's pretty cool. Um, so I mean, we're at the finish line of a lot of stuff. I'm wondering what other changes are going to take place in the month of July. It's going to be, I mean, that in and of itself, it'll be the first time I've ever paid a house off. Yeah. So, what else? What else you got, you know? I need to go check on my dad and pay his rent and all that kind of stuff. I can mail them a check, but I prefer to actually give it to them in person. And, you know, even though it's painful and to a degree I hate it, I need to check in with my dad, make sure he's okay. I mean, like physically, you know. It's partially my job as guardian and partially just my job as his kid to make sure that he's, and I don't think that he is, you know, just to make sure he's not being abused, he's being taken care of, he's fed, you know, all kind of stuff. But it's painful because, you know, in this particular box of chocolates, I never know who I'm going to be. Because my dad doesn't know that he's a dad. You know, in his mind, last time I talked to him, it was 1962, and he hadn't even met my mom yet. It's like time shifting, I think they call it. It's a Alzheimer's symptom, where they kind of typically go backward, you know. I mean, hell, if we sit with him on Tuesday, it might be 1956, and he's a teenager, you know, getting ready to start his senior year in high school. I don't know. Isn't that weird? I don't know when my dad is going to be, which means that I don't know who I'm going to be. Because at least so far, he recognizes me enough to know that I'm someone. And I've been assigned the title of cousin. So, you know, who would 16-year-old Fred decide that I was in his brain? What role will I get assigned? Or will I be a complete stranger? Will he look at me and say, I don't know who you are. Get out of my room. I don't know who you are. You know what I mean? Because he sure could. He sure could. Hell, he might look at pics and be like, oh, I don't know who you are, but how have you been, Jenny? You know, I don't know. I got Forrest Gump on my mind. That's why I said Jenny. I always think about her. She's very special. A lot of voices up here. Sometimes they argue too. That gets awkward. Mostly just because there's not a lot of space. So it echoes and people start staring. It's just really, you know, what can you do? But yeah, I mentioned to Jason that I actually had a next to normal script. And I mean, he jokingly said, hey, me too. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I know. And he's like, yeah, but you haven't done the show. You did. Why do you have a next to normal script? And I'm like, well, because when it's a show that I'm interested in doing, because I ordered this. Actually, I think I ordered this when we still had the shop going, which would mean I ordered this like 10 years ago. 2010. 6th printing, 2017. Okay. But because it was a show that I was interested in doing, it works best as a two-story set, which we couldn't have done that part, but I was thinking about, I always think about this thing, if we could like layer it like with a back step along the back to give a razor, not a razor, but a razor, to give it kind of a bi-level approach to where we could do a front stage with like a, like 1.5 kind of thing. But I think you probably could get away with doing it single story. But I was thinking about those things, and I got a script because I'm like, I want to dive deeper. And talking with Jason, watching and whatnot, I'm like, I think I have the script here. I think I intentionally brought that with me. I brought that with me. So yeah, I was flipping through it. And one of the bright sides of Dan, the dad, is technically Dan and Gabe are both tenors, but typically I see Gabe's definitely played as a tenor. But I frequently see Dan played as either a lower tenor or a baritone. The upside downside to that is, that part of it is pretty much in my range, because I'm a baritone bass. I've got over a 3-octave range. Not right now, I don't. And I'm hoping there's no permanent damage, because that would really suck. But a lot of his higher stuff is actually done somewhat falsettoed. So, and I don't have as much experience in really working with my falsetto voice. So that would actually be a cool stretch for me to actually learn how to do that. And that's one thing that I do plan on doing in working my voice, trying to make sure that I stay strong with breathing and all that, because I have emphysema. I was diagnosed a couple years ago, mild, moderate, whatnot. I don't have a tank. I haven't been diagnosed with or prescribed any medications or anything. So far, I'm just like self-regulated, trying to quit smoking. That's why I'm trying to quit smoking. But I haven't had the need. I haven't had any hospitalizations or anything like that. But singing is actually a very good therapy in keeping your lung capacity, keeping your breathing regulated, and just fighting the effects of the disease. So actually working with some of the music, I'm going to see if I can find some instrumental karaoke riffs or something like that, to where I could actually rehearse as though I was doing the show, but it'll help me, because I can actually use singing as a form of therapy, as a form of combating what could be negative effects from the disease. But this, I'm actually going to work on some songs from Next to Normal, just because it'll give me, number one, I love singing. Number two, it's therapy, I guess. It's part of my, trying to stay alive, frankly. So, but yeah, a lot of his higher stuff is actually kind of falsettoed and airy. So, I'm going to experiment with that part of my voice. I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I'm going to go get some sleep, because, why not? So, yeah, tired. It's almost 6 a.m. So, hug your parents, hug your kids. Don't hug your goldfish, it's weird, and they don't like it. Just don't. Make it a great day.